All rise. Court is in session here on Fantasy Pros. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to Judge Joey, aka Fantasy Football Draft Court, where today we're going to debate 5 players, with Andrew Erickson being aggressive in terms of his ranking, and Pat Fitzmaurice is going to attempt to throw some cold water, and you, the audience, will decide at the end of the day whether or not you're going to draft these players. So make sure you like this video. Make sure you hang out with us here the entire show so your voice can be heard. And of course, we're trying to get to 300,000 subscribers here on Fantasy Pros this year, and we can do it with your help. Gentlemen, I'm glad you've come dressed for the occasion today. I've seen you've worn the best suits that you had to my court. You're already pretty far behind right now in terms of the fashion, but we have no choice. We got to go forward here regardless of what's going on here. So, Pat Fitzmaurice, I assume that you've been preparing all of your briefs, but I know the question everybody wants to know here watching the show: boxers or briefs for Pat Fitzmaurice?
Oh, it's got to be boxers.
Okay,
So, yes, and I have finished preparing my briefs, Joe. I mean, young Mr. Erickson felt the sting of my lash a few weeks ago, and the bad news for him is that I'm in even more pugnacious mood today than I was then.
Oh, the sting of the lash, pugnacious. Andrew Erickson, are you even going to stand what the hell's coming out of Pat's mouth here? Or are you going to need like a thesaurus and a dictionary to make sure you understand what kind of arguments he's making in the first place?
Yeah, I was going to ask for a 5-minute break so I could go pick up my thesaurus and dictionary to get an idea of what he's actually
Access
talking about
denied.
here.
Objection overruled. We're going to continue on here. Again, we've got fun things to give away too before we get started, so make sure you're with us. Drop your comments below. You got questions, you want to comment, you can get here on the show. But let's instead begin Fantasy Football Draft Court today with a very high-octane wide receiver. That's right. This first guy we're going to talk about plays for the Lions. Now, the Lions are going to have a new offense rolling around here in 2025 because Ben Johnson left for Chicago, Tanner Engstrom left for the Jets, and now it's a new OC, it's a new day, yes it is, but will it be the same old Jameson Williams? He's the first player to debate today at Fantasy Court. Court is in session. Let's talk about Jameson Williams here, because in terms of the rankings, Andrew Erickson, aggressive, wide receiver 22. That's actually higher than the ECR of 25 and the ADP of 27. Just for discovery, last year, 58 receptions, 1,001 yard, one extra one for good measure, and 7 touchdowns for Jameson Williams. Also had a rushing touchdown. Fun fact there. 2 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 years. Also fun. He has yet to play every single game of a season for a myriad of reasons. That's another big word, Andrew Erickson. I hope you're following along. And now we're going to get an opportunity to see who's right and who's wrong, because Fitzy's got him at 30. He's even lower than the ECR and the ADP. Erickson being aggressive. Pat Fitzmaurice, you may begin your opening arguments as to why Andrew Erickson is too aggressive when it comes to this flashy young wide receiver, one Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams averaged 6.1 targets per game last season. That's a pretty modest number. We want more than 6.1 targets per game from our starting fantasy receivers. And yet Jameson Williams was able to finish wide receiver 20 in half-point PPR fantasy points per game, wide receiver 26 in full PPR fantasy points per game. Very impressive. And to finish inside wide receiver 2 range, or just outside it in PPR scoring, required JMO to be incredibly efficient with his targets last season. He averaged 17.3 yards per catch, 11 yards per target, and 2.10 yards per target. Those are all sensational efficiency numbers. Some might even call them unsustainably sensational numbers. So for Jameson Williams to have another wide receiver 2 season, he would either have to maintain his freakish efficiency numbers, which frankly seems unlikely, or grow his target share. And target share growth seems like maybe the more plausible of those two paths for Jameson Williams, at least until you consider that the Lions ran the second most offensive plays in the NFL last season. And then consider that Amon-Ra St. Brown averaged only 8.3 targets per game last season, a 3-year low for him. So it seems unlikely Amon-Ra's target share drops any farther than that. And Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs are also very involved in the Detroit passing game. So it's hard to see Jameson Williams maintaining his 2024 efficiency, and it's hard to see him significantly expanding his target share. I just think it's
No?
pure wish casting to rank Jameson Williams inside wide receiver 2 range.
Wow, he just called Andrew Erickson a wishcaster. On his resume, he calls himself a podcaster. We'll see at the end of this argument which one is true. Andrew Erickson, Jameson Williams, a guy who, look, if you look back at the game log last year, 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games, came on strong. Now, he is a little boomer bust. A lot of, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 9, wide receiver 7 finishes in the second half, but also a 51, a 31, a 28, and a 39. So not always exactly the model of consistency. So the argument for booking him this year to be an absolute stud here at wide receiver 22 is very aggressive. Defend your stance on Jameson Williams and this aggressive ranking of yours.
Well, I'm here to, as a wishcaster, that Fitzmaurice has laid out who I am, I'm here to make dreams come true. And that's what's going to happen for Jameson Williams here in year 4, because I think that he is going to see his volume increase because, like you said earlier, Joe, where we talked about Jameson Williams, he hasn't played a full season throughout his entire NFL career. This is the first time he's not coming off an injury or dealing with the suspension. He is all in and all invested into this Lions offense with the new OC. That the first thing that this new OC does when he lands in Detroit is he talks about this is going to be a breakout year for Jameson Williams. And you think back, wait, wasn't last year a breakout year for Jameson Williams? It was. And now they're double downing on that. So last year, I wasn't as in tune with the hype about JMO. I wasn't paying attention to it enough. And I made sure that I wasn't going to make that mistake again because they're doing it again. It's John Moore and it's Dan Campbell. They're all saying the sky's the limit for Jameson Williams because I think the volume is going to be there for him. I don't think it's by accident that Jameson Williams, the first time that he plays the most games in his career, it coincides with a target share dip for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think that was by accident. And when you take away Ben Johnson from this offense, why are we trying to figure out who the Bears slot receiver is going to be? Because we know Ben Johnson offenses are always focused on the slot player. Well, now you're removing him from the equation in Detroit. Maybe they're not going to be so focused on getting the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Maybe they're going to be focused on getting to the ball to this explosive fourth-year player who has 15 career touchdowns, 11 of which have been 30 or more yards. He is a human highlight reel. I think that Jameson Williams is really special. I thought that when he came out of college, but it's just been a slow burn because of the injuries and because of the nonsense, the off-the-field concerns. But I don't have any of that anymore. Again, yes, he was efficient last year because he's good. 30 NFL in yards after catch per reception. So I think that the efficiency is screaming, hey, we need to get this guy the ball more often. And even in the second half of last year where we really saw him take off, his target share was almost in line with Amon-Ra St. Brown, except for that one game in week 15 where Amon-Ra St. Brown had 18 targets. You remove that from the equation, it's a pretty flat target share between him, JMO, Sam Laporta. So I think that the volume is going to be there. That's where I disagree with Fitz because he is efficient and it doesn't take a rocket science to think, hey, this guy's really good with the ball in his hands. Let's give him the ball more.
Certainly a great career for him in Alabama, where he was the explosive big playmaker, and certainly a lot of nonsense has followed around Jameson Williams. So there's a lot to take in here. Any rebuttals, Pat Fitzmaurice, to some of the arguments that Andrew Erickson's laid out here for JMO?
Yeah, I mean, I would push back on the possibility of a volume increase. Just again, the Lions were second in offensive plays last year. They were first in touchdowns, so maybe the scoring outlook and the touchdown outlook isn't quite as bright for the members of that offense. And let's just say we're going to file away Erickson's contention that Ben Johnson liked to funnel targets to the slot receiver. We're going to file that one away for later.
He does. He's done it everywhere. Jarvis Landry, remember his? It's the same thing.
I do remember Jarvis Landry. What a fine young man he was. Never saw him in my court. Tyreek Hill, once or twice. Did see him. But now we turn it over to all of you. So the poll is up officially. We want to hear from all of you. Will you be drafting Jameson Williams at his cost here? We've got, again, Pat Fitzmaurice, wide receiver 30, saying no. It's too high. Andrew Erickson saying it's time to get in on the young 24-year-old. So now officially we turn it over to you. The jury is under deliberation. You vote right now. Drop your comments while we're waiting. Some fun comments here. One from Jory in the chat. My 101 pick says that Judge Joey has no bottoms on under that robe. I'll let your imagination decide what that is. Perhaps if we have time, we'll put a poll up for that too. No puns intended. All right, let's also continue on here because we've got amazing things going on here. Fantasy Pros, don't forget, make sure to subscribe to the channel, do everything here, like the stream, and vote right now as we're waiting to vote. Andrew Erickson, when you're looking for, let's say, explosiveness out of your wide receiver 3, which is kind of where he's going, right? Right on that fringe, wide receiver 25, right? 27, somewhere in the ADP. To me, Williams is exactly that kind of guy. Like, I want the boomer bust guy. I want the guy that can win me a week because I'm not looking for floor from number 3 necessarily. I'm looking for the guy that could make the big splash play. But is his best role potentially the later you get him, especially in a wide receiver, let's say 2 wide receiver league where you can play Jameson Williams as a flex guy?
I mean, I think that the ADP is a better grip in where you want to draft him ideally. I mean, I have him wide receiver 22 because I want people to be aggressive trying to get him, because when you look in that range, that cluster of receivers, there's a lot of guys that fit that type of build that you were kind of describing, usually a wide receiver 3 flex play. But I think with Jameson Williams, I think that there can be more for him. You know, I don't think that it's too outlandish to think that he could outscore Amon-Ra St. Brown this year. Again, if week 1 comes and he out-targets Amon-Ra St. Brown, what are we going to be saying after that? It's one game, but it's a new offense. And I just don't want to ignore all the signs and all the fire coming out of Detroit training camp where it's Jameson Williams.
Pat Fitzmaurice, right around that same ADP. You've got Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. Are you telling me that you would rather have Xavier Worthy than Jameson Williams?
Yeah, I mean, Xavier Worthy caught 50 balls over his last 8 games last year. Like his breakout over the back half of the season, well, that stretched into the playoff too. That includes playoff games. But his breakthrough late in the year was legitimate, I think. And even with Rashee Rice there, I feel like Worthy is still going to be able to earn targets. So, yeah, I mean, both guys are not clearly the number 1 target earners on their respective teams and, you know, are maybe third in the pecking order. But I don't know. I think I feel a little bit better about the Kansas City offense than I do the Detroit offense this year.
Well, the jury has come back from deliberation. They've been sequestered for quite some time. They have returned, and they've returned with a verdict. And the verdict is in, and I will read it. Pat Fitzmaurice, perhaps no lashings, at least not in this round of Fantasy Court, because 71% of people here today agree with Andrew Erickson. Jameson Williams, that boy's getting drafted. Case dismissed. Let's go. So there you have it, our first decision of many here. We've got 4 more debates to come. Don't worry, Pat. I'm sure you're just giving the kid one there to feel confident and then, you know, kind of smack him around in the back end of this show here. Don't forget, everybody, as we're watching the show today, drop your comments, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell till it goes ding, because when you do all those things, you are eligible for our August giveaway, and what a doozy it is. Check this out. Boom. How you doing? A.J. Brown signed helmet by actually A.J. Brown. I was going to have Andrew Erickson sign it, and I said, nah, it's probably not a good idea. Just have A.J. sign it instead. This piece right here is from pristineauction.com, the coolest place to get all of your autographed helmets, jerseys, and so much more. So you're for your fan cave, you're looking for something fun here for the mantle, or maybe just Christmas presents a little bit early. AJ Brown helmet, just one of the many cool things you get at pristineauction.com, but we're giving this away for free. How do you win it? Subscribe to the channel, drop your comments below, like this video, and of course, ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications so you never miss a piece of content and we can let you know you're the big winner of the AJ Brown autographed helmet. Our next victim, or should I say defendant here at court, is actually one close to Mr. Cheesehead himself, Pat Fitzmaurice. Pat has a love-hate relationship with the Packers and the lactose intolerance, sometimes a love-hate relationship with cheese as well. However, today on the program, we're going to cut right to the chase, and we're going to look at Jayden Reed. Now, Jayden Reed, a guy that has come on and been a useful, I would say, fantasy wide receiver for sure. Last year, a bit of a disappointment, but then again, Jordan Love was hurt most of the year. In his rookie season, Jayden Reed played 16 games, had 64 receptions for 793 yards and 8 touchdowns. Last year, a bit of a dip. Went from 94 targets to just 75 targets, even though he played one more game. Only had 55 receptions, just 6 touchdowns. So again, a step backward, a sophomore slump. Perhaps a lot of these things might be true. On Fantasy Pros currently, his ADP is wide receiver 44. The ECR is wide receiver 42. But Andrew Erickson, He is far more aggressive. He is at wide receiver 34, so he believes in Jayden Reed. Pat Fitzmaurice is a little closer here at 41 to the consensus, to what's happening in those drafting streets. So Pat Fitzmaurice, once again, it's time to go to Fantasy Draft Court. Court is in session, and I am Judge, Joey, and Executioner. Let's talk about Jayden Reed. Tell us why Andrew Erickson is too aggressive on this Packer wideout.
Well, Your Honor, the defense seems to like betting on high-efficiency wide receivers to either maintain their high efficiency or, even more improbably, improve upon their target share. And Jayden Reed has averaged 9.8 yards per target and 2.13 yards per route run over his first 2 NFL seasons. Those are excellent numbers. But here's the thing. Jayden Reed rarely plays in 2 receiver sets for the Green Bay Packers. He's usually on the field only when the Packers go to 3 receiver or 4 receiver sets. And as a result, Jayden Reed only had a 63% snap share last year. Now, the Packers spent a first-round draft pick on University of Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, who instantly becomes Green Bay's fastest offensive player. The addition of Golden isn't going to make it any easier for Jayden Reed to get on the field for 2 receiver sets. So again, for Jayden Reed to live up to the sort of lofty ranking that Mr. Erickson has given him, Reed would either have to get a bigger snap share, which seems unlikely, or improve upon his already sterling efficiency numbers, which also seems unlikely.
Unlikely potential there, efficiency returning for Jayden Reed, and Matthew Golden, of course, making things a little bit more complicated. It's been a bit of a cluster, so to speak. Maybe more of a curd. Is that a better way to describe the wide receiver core of the Packers, perhaps? Okay, a bit of a curdy situation here. So Andrew Erickson, why does this curd right here rise to the top of the water and you want to pluck out, pop in your mouth, or pop on your roster here and get him going this season? Certainly a guy that's been looked to in the red zone for Jordan Love. Is it just as easy as a healthy Jordan Love means a bounce back for Jayden Reed?
I think that's a big part of it. I think that what Fitz laid out is kind of making the argument for me where I want to bet on these highly efficient players to get more volume. I think that the coaches take it when they're looking at who can we get the ball to, who are we designing plays for, let's get the ball to our best players. I truly believe that Jayden Reed is still one of the best playmakers on the Green Bay Packers, and Fitz laid out how efficient he has been the last 2 seasons. Despite having a down year last year, he was still top 20 in terms of yards per route run, despite playing with a quarterback who injured his groin in week 1 and missed time. He had to play a bunch of games with Malik Willis where they never threw the ball. So in a situation where the Packers are playing more up-tempo, they're playing in more shootouts in the very competitive NFC North. Well, they're going to have no choice but to play Jayden Reed more because they have to score points with these other high-powered offenses in that division. So that's part of the reason why I like Jayden Reed. And yeah, I have him at wide receiver 34. That's baking in the fact that he doesn't play in a lot of these 2 receiver sets. That's already considered in the price. Wide receiver 44 in ADP. That's more than capturing that because last year it was the same situation. He was still wide receiver 26 overall. So he was already beating this ADP last season despite not having an expanded role. And before his week 4, so weeks 1 through 13, before he had that week 14 dud where he basically got 0 points, he was a top 10 wide receiver 8 overall, wide receiver 18 in terms of points per game. So yes, I do totally agree with Fitz's point about the usage for Jayden Reed. Whether that changes or whether it doesn't remains to be seen. But it's already considered in the price tag and how suppressed it is. I'm just going to bet on the talent and him being a player that takes advantage of an offense that is more productive through the air in 2025.
Pat Fitzmaurice, Andrew does bring up a very good point. Malik Willis in some of those games, looking at week 2 and week 3 when he started. Jayden Reed was wide receiver 48 and 42. Week 8, wide receiver 57. Week 16 was another week where he got Malik Willis. He was wide receiver 35. Boy, oh boy, that's pretty bad. Are you sure you're not misplacing some of your disdain for what happened last year in Green Bay with Malik Willis playing more than he should have and transferring that unfairly to one Jayden Reed?
Well, Your Honor, Jordan Love was there for the Packers' last 9 games of the season, including their playoff loss. And Jayden Reed he got to 50 yards once in the last 9 games. Just once.
Fair. You were very, very ready for that question. I appreciate that. Andrew Erickson, has made his argument for being aggressive with Jayden Reed. Pat Fitzmaurice says, pump the brakes. But what do you say? Drop your comments below. And of course, it's time to vote. So vote right now. It's open. Are we drafting Jayden Reed here, or are we letting him pass through our fingers? The Packers certainly had a lot of mouths to feed last year, but is Jayden Reed now going to be the guy that gets out there and figures it out? Dennis thinks that Reed is only good for best ball. So just putting that out there. Would you agree with that, Erickson? Are you looking at him in the best ball streets?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he definitely has that spike week potential, especially when it comes to, because part of my argument is the Packers are going to be throwing more. I think their passing game is going to be more efficient. And when would you see spikes in their passing game would be in shootout conditions, which you don't always know pre-game if a game is going to be a potential shootout or not. So,
Pat Fitzmaurice, how do you feel about Jayden Reed best ball?
Yeah, I do like him, and he does get some rushing opportunities, I have to acknowledge. I think that's probably the best way to harness the volatility in his profile. And by the way, while the jury deliberates, I've never been so hopeful that there are a lot of Bears and Vikings fans in the House just so they can stuff the ballot against a Green Bay Packer.
All right, while we're waiting, while we're waiting here for that ballot stuffing, again, I don't want any shenanigans in my courtroom, all right? I am not afraid to send somebody to prison overnight or even for a couple of days. I refuse to have any shenanigans going on here. This is a court of law and order and rules, unless, of course, you write a big check to me, in which case I'm open to it. I'm listening. I can send you my PayPal, Venmo, any of those things will work for me. What I'm saying is I can be bought. That's what I'm saying here. But one thing that is also very important this time of year is good advice. So while the jury is deliberating, make sure you get that advice, not just here on our YouTube channel anymore. No. You can also get it on our Twitch, twitch.tv/fantasypros. That's the place to be 5 days a week to interact with us. It's also a faster way to get to us too. We're so busy on these live streams here. We get so many questions when we're just doing Q&As. We might not get to you. We want to get to everybody, and we can do that on the Twitch if you're having a hard time getting through to us. So Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern, Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then Thursdays and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern on our Twitch. Again, subscribe, use your Amazon Prime, $5 gets rid of all those nasty advertisements. Nobody needs those. So go right to the Twitch, follow us, Fantasy Pros, and of course, you can subscribe and watch us commercial free. So let's take a look here at the results, and I gotta say, overwhelming this debate has become here, even higher than the last one, 71%. This might be a new draft court record. I gotta say, I'm a little shocked here by how much this number has swung here, and it has swung in the favor of one Patrick Anthony Fitzmaurice. 85% say no, they are not drafting Jayden Reed. I'm sorry, guilty as charged.
I am 0 for 2 defending Jayden Reed. He needs to hire a new attorney. That's not me.
Yes, well, unfortunately, it's tough. But Andrew Erickson, take solace in this. You can get him in the 40s if you like him, right? He's a value there, and I think that's the point to be made here. There's upside when you're looking around some of the other guys being drafted in that same range. Not all those guys have the same sort of, flashes of productivity that Jayden Reed has had, and I think that's something to remember. I mean, Khalil Shakir, is okay. Deebo Samuel, a little unclear. I'm sure Ricky Pearsall will be a guy people will be aggressive on. But I'll tell you, after Stephon Diggs and Ricky Pearsall, I'm looking around here, and Cooper Kupp, Josh Downs, I don't know, man. I think I'd take a shot on Jayden Reed there.
I agree. I mean, I can't fathom taking Cooper Kupp over Jayden Reed. If you're going to take a slot receiver, I'm taking the guy with juice, the young player.
Mm-hmm. Pat Fitzmaurice, Jayden Reed or Cooper Kupp?
Oh, Jayden Reed.
Okay, there we go. We finally got on the same page there. So Fantasy Court has come to a decision. Jayden Reed will not be drafted in 2025, at least not by Pat Fitzmaurice and everyone watching the show right now. On to the next one. Our next defendant here that we're going to bring into the courtroom is a young wide receiver, a rookie. He hasn't even taken a snap yet in the NFL, but some of us are very excited about one Jayden Higgins. Now, he's also the first guy to ever get a fully guaranteed contract as a second-round pick. Judge Joey always tells you what, boys and girls? Follow the money. When you follow the money, you end up with targets. You end up with fantasy productivity most of the time. And sure, it could be a little slower there with Christian Kirk in the beginning. I'm sure that's going to be part of this argument. Currently, the ADP here is wide receiver 53 on Fantasy Pros, which you can see, at fantasybros.com. All the consensus ADPs from the Yahoos, the Sleepers, the ESPNs, yada, yada, yada. The ECR, the expert consensus ranking of Jayden Higgins, is wide receiver 64. So, just for clarity, that's where Pat Fitzmaurice is. He is in the expert consensus ranking of wide receiver 66. Andrew Erickson, on the other hand, is at wide receiver 46, even more aggressive than what we've had here in the average draft position of Jayden Higgins. So, Pat Fitzmaurice, tell us about all the downside, all the negatives of why Jayden Higgins is not going to happen in his rookie season.
Your Honor, permission to cross-examine the defense?
I'm intrigued by this. I'll allow it. I will allow it because I like you coming out of the gate hot here. Go ahead.
Mr. Erickson, when you consider that Jayden Higgins and Jalen Noel had nearly identical stats last year at Iowa State, and that Jalen Noel ran a 4.39 and high jumped 41.5 inches at the NFL scouting combine, and that Jalen Noel was drafted only one round later than Jayden Higgins, can you be 100% certain that Jayden Higgins is even the best rookie receiver from Iowa State on the Houston Texans roster?
Guarantee he's the best receiver. I think that both rookies are both very, very talented. I know that I had them ranked back-to-back before they were drafted. It's less about who I think is the more talented player, because I agree with you that Noel can make some noise if he's also on the field alongside Higgins. But the difference is Christian Kirk is in Jalen Noel's role, where he's not going to be starting when this team opens up in week one, whereas Jayden Higgins, he has a clear path to opportunity opposite of Nico Collins. So that's why I had them ranked in this way, because of opportunity. But I will definitely acknowledge the talent that Noel is. Once Christian Kirk, who has been injured in the second half of both seasons the last 2 years, if he ends up missing time or phases out of this offense, then yeah, I think that both of these rookies can be really talented. I mean, I like betting on these Texans receivers. Last year, how high were we drafting Collins, Diggs, and Tank Dell? They were all inside the top 5 rounds. And after 1 year of CJ Stroud having a little bit of sophomore slump, we immediately decided, all right, it's Collins, and then everybody else is outside the top 50 receivers. We don't want any of these guys. When clearly they prioritized Higgins as the player that they will look at, hey, we need to get immediate opportunity from him, whereas Noel was more of a long-term bet. We have Christian Kirk here to operate the slot from the beginning, and then once he's done, 2026 or whenever they decide Noel is ready to take over that slot role, he can step in and also be productive. So I like both guys. I'm ranked ahead. You can check my Noel ranking. He's also ranked ahead of ADP for me as well, ahead of ECR. I like drafting both these guys because I think both of them are severely undervalued.
Well, to your point.
Okay, go ahead, Pat. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Continue.
Well,
no. Let's continue. Let's hear it.
Just to follow up on the point about Christian Kirk, Jayden Higgins is a big outside receiver, and the Texans already have one of the best big outside receivers in the league in Nico Collins. Jalen Noel, on the other hand, does his best work from the slot, and the only thing keeping Noel from being the Texans' primary slot man is Christian Kirk, a pretty unremarkable player, quite honestly, who is injury-prone and going into the final year of a contract he has not lived up to. So I almost feel like Noel has the easier path to productivity. And with your ranking of wide receiver 46, we're talking about a guy who should be flex worthy pretty much right away. And I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I don't know if Jayden Higgins gets the target. And, I'm not even going to go into the sorry state of the Houston Texans offensive line.
Well, here's a question for both of you. I'll ask it to the room and then get your individual takes on it. The offensive line hasn't been good since CJ Stroud showed up in town. Hasn't stopped Nico Collins from being great. We were drafting Stephon Diggs, who also plays on the outside aggressively, and he was on pace for a 100-catch season before his injury. So with all of that there, and remember, Nico and I want to say Stephon Diggs were going right around wide receiver 14, 15 last year, somewhere in that range, right? Right outside the top 10 guys, pretty much. And basically back-to-back. So sure, the sophomore slump a little bit here for CJ Stroud. Sure, of course, the offensive line does have some issues. But Pat Fitzmaurice, if we were coming off a successful year where Stephon Diggs had 1,000 yards receiving and stayed healthy and had 100 catches alongside Nico Collins, would we still be acting so dismissive of Jayden Higgins?
Well, there were the injuries that obviously kept the trio of Texans receivers from hitting their stride last year, but we also had the offensive line problem with CJ Stroud not getting adequate protection. And, we still do have a number of receivers on this team besides Nico Collins, who figures to be a big target hog. The rest is going to get chopped up among Higgins, Noel, Kirk, Dalton Schultz. And I just don't know that this is going to be a team that's giving us like a top 10 output in the passing game. So I'm not sure that anyone here is really fantasy relevant beyond Nico.
Andrew Erickson, anything to add here in your closing arguments for Jayden Higgins? Again, you are the one who is pushing the envelope when it comes to the ADP.
So yeah, one of the things I look at with Higgins, and he's a bet that's hit the last 2 seasons, where you take a guy who's drafted highly in the second round that falls into a team attached to a above average quarterback, which I think we can all agree CJ Stroud is an above average quarterback who can support fantasy viable receivers. Even last year, as bad as it was, Diggs was still productive for fantasy. Nico Collins was a monster for fantasy football. When these rookies these second round rookie picks end up on teams with these quarterbacks, they hit in a big way because they're severely discounted because they're second round picks. But Jayden Higgins was a 34th overall pick. I mean, there were rumors he was going to go in the first round. And the Texans took a lot of calls on this pick and they refused to trade it because, hey, they knew we're going to lock and load with Jayden Higgins. The last 2 seasons, it was Rashee Rice, second round pick, really, really cheap, but attached to Patrick Mahomes. Mega hit. Last year, Ladd McConkey, second round pick, attached to Justin Herbert, mega hit. I just think it's the same type of bet. Jayden Higgins, attached to CJ Stroud, immediate path to opportunity. I know we talked about you argue about Noel and he could have an easier path. So week 1, are you going to rank Jalen Noel over Jayden Higgins? Or are you going to rank Jayden Higgins higher? Because I think I'm going to rank Higgins higher because the week 1 projection suggests he's going to be starting out there and Noel's probably going to be on the bench.
I mean, I may have Higgins ranked higher, but they're both going to be probably well outside the top 60 at wide receiver.
Fair enough. Let us put it to the jury now. The debates have been made. The case for Jayden Higgins. Are you drafting him? Are you not? Let's find out here. And while we're waiting for the answer to that question, we've got more things to tell you about, including our draft assistant. If you want to make sure you're crushing all your drafts, whether you're drafting Jayden Higgins or not, it'll make live pick suggestions during your draft. And again, you can sync your leagues for free. It's like having one of us right there in the draft with you. You've got the cheat sheets. You've got the pick predictor. You've got coach coming soon. You've got all these incredible things here. The bells, the whistles, the tools that will really make you just better than everybody else in your league. And that's what it's all about, right? Fantasy football is about one thing, proving you're better than everyone else you know at fantasy football. If you want to dominate, you want the cheat code, you want to get it right here, fantasypros.com/assistant. Check it out today. Again, just download the Fantasy Pros app, sync your leagues for free, use Draft Assistant in every single one of your drafts to help you kick everyone else's tail. All right, let's see what the people are saying currently about Jayden Higgins. If we've got some comments here, I'm definitely going late Higgins in drafts here. This is from Joseph here, father man, friend of the show here. I'm all for Higgins, so it should be interesting. A lot of early buzz here. Even Sam apologizing. Sorry, Pat. I have Higgins on my dynasty. Part of your jury is biased. So there you go. There is an inherent bias here in some of these folks. They've listened to you in the Dynasty podcast here on Fantasy Pros, and perhaps you have muddied your own waters, Pat. Any concerns, especially from the chat here, how it's going?
I am a little concerned. I mean, I do like Higgins' dynasty stock. I just don't think this year is really his ETA.
All right, so let's take a look at his projections then. Perhaps that is a fun way to see if he's going to go over or under them. Jayden Higgins right now on Fantasy Pros, the projections we have here, 48 receptions, 630 yards, 4 touchdowns. Pat Fitzmaurice, over or under those projections?
I'm going to say slightly under.
Slightly under, my God. Andrew Erickson, you must be an over on this, right? 48 receptions, 634 touchdowns. What does it really look like? Give me the receptions, the yards, and the touchdowns.
Let's go with 6 touchdowns. Let's say he gets to 600. What was his yards? Like
630 is the yardage.
630. I think he's going to go over that. Let's say 700 yards, and let's get him 50 catches.
50 catches. There you go. A little bit more productive. Ooh, this one is close. By the hair of our chinny chin chin. I'm glad we didn't have a hung jury here. We got real close to it for the first time. Hung jury, we'd have to offer arbitration here between the ECR and Andrew Erickson and see if they will agree to it. If not, I don't know what happens. Rock, paper, scissor tournament. I don't know how we would decide it. But luckily, just by the skin of our teeth, we just got there. 52%, according to the jury, are drafting Jayden Higgins. Case closed. You're drafting that boy. You're putting him on your rosters, and you're looking for a big season. Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm sorry this one did not go your way, but it was so close. What's it like to get to the goal line and just fumble right before it, Pat?
Oh, it's painful. We thought we were about to score 6 here and came up short.
Settled in for the field goal. Andrew Erickson, this must feel pretty good because I feel like last time the two of you were together, Pat Fitzmaurice did kind of rub your face in it a little bit of taunting, and he came out here real flashy, and right now it's 2-1. How you feeling right now going into the next player on our list?
I know Fitzy came out with a lot of big words I did not understand, but what I do understand is the standing, and it's 2-1.
2-1. There you go. That's how we do it in fantasy court. All right, let's get to the next one here. It's a tight end. We're going to switch things up here. And a tight end who had a really good college career. A lot of us had high fantasy expectations, but I don't know if this player has yet to realize his full potential. Could 2025 be the year for Dalton Kincaid? We do not know. Let's dive deeper into Dalton Kincaid and give you the lowdown on our next suspect or our next suspect. Either one of them. It's good. It's good. All right, let's get to our discussion here about Dalton Kincaid. He's being just barely drafted, just barely, as the 12th tight end off the board. The ADP, though, is at 14. The ECR is at 12. So we are right there, depending upon if you like Dalton Kincaid or not. Just to kind of recap what we've seen from him, he's 2 years into the league. Year one, encouraging, low touchdown totals. Okay, touchdown regression happens, but he did see 91 targets, caught 73. Then last year missed some time, only played 13 games in year two in 2024. Saw 75 targets, caught 44 for, again, just 2 touchdowns. So that is the problem when it comes to Dalton Kincaid. It's the touchdowns, only 4 in 2 seasons. You need more out of your tight end. Why? Because you catch a touchdown, you are a tight end 1. That's how it works in fantasy pretty much every single week. Now, just to get through this here, Pat Fitzmaurice is at tight end 15, which is right around where the ADP is, actually a little bit even lower. Andrew Erickson is at tight end 11, a little bit higher than some of the consensus in the ADP. So, gentlemen, let's talk about it. Let us take a look, dive deeper into Dalton Kincaid. Pat Fitzmaurice, why should people be avoiding him in 2025?
Well, the Buffalo Bills offense has a mantra: everybody eats. And as good as Josh Allen is, he is not cooking up Thanksgiving dinner for everyone. Like, Dalton Kincaid isn't going into the kitchen and coming out with a plate full of turkey, mashed potatoes, and stuffing. Everybody eats means that everybody gets a little something to nosh on. Not enough food to make you loosen your belt when you get up from the table. Think of it more like going to a happy hour with your friends and splitting a couple of starters, some pretzel bites, some pigs in a blanket, maybe some hummus and pita bread. The Bills spread the ball around. It's just what they do. And the Bills also like to play a second tight end, Dawson Knox, who had a 61% snap share last season. So yes, Dalton Kincaid had 73 catches as a rookie, but he did it by catching an unsustainable 80.2% of his targets, and his catch rate fell to 58.7% last year. And over his first 2 seasons, Kincaid has averaged 9.6 yards per catch, 6.8 yards per target, 1.52 yards per route run. Not very inspiring numbers. He scored 4 touchdowns in 29 NFL games. As you mentioned, Judge, those are all pretty mediocre numbers. Certainly nothing to suggest that this Clark Kent level tight end is suddenly going to come out of the phone booth as Superman. And in the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings, Kincaid is tight end 12. Rookie Tyler Warren is tight end 13. Warren could be special. Kincaid has shown us he's not special. Like, I'm taking Warren over Kincaid every time. Heck, I would take Kyle Pitts over Kincaid every time. At least Pitts has given us a 1,000-yard season.
Shots fired there by Fitzy. I do like a good superhero metaphor, and I also like a good appetizer. So that was a very cogent and exciting monologue here to open up this discussion, this debate on Dalton Kincaid. Pat Fitzmaurice, what is the 101 of appetizers? Just out of curiosity. You're at the bar. What do you do?
I'm always going to be a nachos guy.
Nachos are a good choice. Nachos, you got to get something on. You got to get, like, ground beef or chicken or something else, chili, something like that on the nachos. You got to do nachos are good. The other acceptable answer, sampler platter. A little everything. A little of everything. That's what you do. Andrew Erickson, while I'm thinking of what I'm going to order right after this program is over today, let's talk about Dalton Kincaid. To Pat's point, he hasn't given us 1,000-yard season. He hasn't given us a lot of touchdowns. Like Kyle Pitts, he gave us a lot of hype, but he really hasn't delivered. Now, I know sometimes it takes certain tight ends a little longer to catch on, but how much more patience can we have here with Dalton Kincaid?
Well, I think it's year 3 for him. He's still a relatively younger player. He plays the tight end position. Not everyone can be Brock Bowers or Sam Laporta. Those guys have really spoiled us in terms of, we just get these tight ends right out of college and they become tight end ones out of the gates. Now, his rookie year was encouraging, like Fitz laid out. Last year, he took a step back after many of us thought that he could take a bigger step forward, but he was hurt all of last year. I mean, we got reports after the season he was playing through a torn PCL injury. Sean McDermott echoed this at the end of last season and during a lot of the offseason pressers that Kincaid just was not healthy. Like, our goal this offseason is to get him healthy. And I know that he's already kind of dealt with a couple knee injuries here and there. Now, the last things I looked at from training camp was he was out there, he was participating, and right now he's healthier than the number one wide receiver on the Buffalo Bills, Khalil Shakir. And I think it's worth pointing out that last season, Shakir missed one game fully and was limited in another game. And in those two contests, Kincaid led the Buffalo Bills in targets, target rate per route run, and routes run overall. So he was deployed in a way where if Shakir does have to miss time or this ankle injury is prolonging, then you're going to see a little bit more of that Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid connection, especially like you laid out in the red zone. I just don't want to write off younger players coming off of injury-plagued seasons attached to Josh Allen. I think someone in this Buffalo passing game, especially if Shakir is going to be sidelined, is going to pop. Josh Allen won MVP last year. We don't want any of his receivers. Like, that doesn't add up to me, especially with James Cook and his 19 touchdowns sitting out of training camp. Like, they got to score his touchdowns some way. So I think Kincaid can be one of those candidates. And where he's going, I mean, he's free. He's not being drafted. Yes, I think that Warren is really exciting, but who's his quarterback? We don't know. We don't know who the week 1 quarterback is for the Indianapolis Colts. Where we know Dalton Kincaid, his quarterback is Josh Allen, and he's going to generate a lot of touchdowns, and that's upside. And that's why I think that it's worth going back to Dalton Kincaid, especially last year. Again, it wasn't great, but one of the highlights, hyper targeted, 26% route or target rate per route run. And that was 5th highest at the position among tight ends with at least 150 routes run last year. So when he was out there, he was banged up, but he was still getting a lot of targets at a very high rate. I think that bodes well for him to bounce back in a healthier season in year 3.
All right, let's put this to the jury and see what they have to say about it. So you can vote right now, have your voice heard. Do you want to draft Dalton Kincaid this year or not? Pat Fitzmaurice, Andrew does bring up, while the jury's deliberating, I want them to chew on this a little bit. He does bring up the health, and I could also bring up, we've had some amazing tight ends in this league who did take a couple years to kind of carve out their role. Tony Gonzalez comes to mind, right? A Hall of Famer. It took him a couple seasons to kind of figure out all that talent and figure out what it was going to be. So is it a matter of we should be more patient and actually more potentially interested in Kincaid simply because he does play in such a good offensive ecosystem with the Buffalo Bills and the reigning MVP?
You can make that case. I mean, maybe we've gotten spoiled the last.
I just did.
Maybe we have gotten spoiled the last couple of years with rookie tight ends finishing back to back as the overall tight ends one in fantasy with Sam Laporta and Brock Bowers. But I just feel like we would have seen the spark from Dalton Kincaid by now. And, I don't know if it's necessarily a selling point to mention that, this second-year tight end was like plagued by injuries last year. And we'll see how he does now. But I do like the sort of misdirection Erickson ran when we were talking about like the Shakir absence last year. And, Erickson immediately goes to the routes stats for Kincaid and neglects to mention that in those two games, he was like 2 for 34 and 5 for 61. And of course, no touchdowns in either game. So,
well, one thing I will say too, Andrew Erickson, when you look back at 2023, his rookie game log, the highest he ever got to 87 yards in one game and 84. Both happened to be in the last 2 games of the season. They were against the New England Patriots that year and the Miami Dolphins. Again, that was in 2023's rookie season. So it did seem like, or at least seem like he was on an upward trajectory there. But the touchdowns in the red zone seems to be a real issue. And that's where I always fall down here when it comes to the tight end position. I want scoring equity. If I can't get Brock Bowers and I don't want to pay that kind of premium for him or for Trey McBride, I'm looking for touchdown equity. It's why I like Mark Andrews so much, because he gets so many heavy red zone targets in a game. So that's the problem here when it comes to Kincaid. It just doesn't seem like he gets enough opportunity here to convert into fantasy points at the tight end position from there.
Well, when James Cook's scoring all the touchdowns, it's hard.
That's
It's
true.
hard to get them. And look, we all agree to some point that the James Cook touchdowns are going to regress. So we then have to allocate.
Objection.
Where are
I'm
they going?
sorry. Not all of us do believe that. Some of us here in handsome
19?
wigs.
He's going to score 19 again?
I just don't think it's going to regress to the point where you all do. Like, if he goes from 18
10.
to 13 or 14, oh my God, is the sky falling?
It's
No.
still less touchdowns.
It's still less. You know what? I will go on. Let the record show 19 touchdowns from Judge Joey for James Cook this year. He better, because I just drafted him this weekend in the Flex Expert League. So we'll see how that goes. But the jury has made a decision. The bailiff has brought it to me, and we will read it now aloud. This one, also, I would not as close. Nothing could be as close as that last one. This one goes in favor right now of not drafting Dalton Kincaid. Case dismissed, unfortunately, on Dalton Kincaid. He is guilty. Guilty of what, you say? Lack of touchdowns. I've had it. 2 years of Dalton Kincaid. I need more touchdowns out of my tight end. I'm sorry, Dalton. I hope things turn around. He's an interesting buy low potentially in dynasty leagues for me because he was such a great college player. Fitzy, you could speak to this too. You watched him there in college. He was a very special talent. It hasn't converted yet, but I can't rule out here just 2 years into the league, especially last year with all the injuries that he suffered, that it can never happen.
Yeah, it's hard to pick up the tight end position because you have so many. You have to be the blocker and the pass catcher, and sometimes that's sort of the norm, that it takes these guys a little bit of time in the NFL to really get a foothold and start producing. So, yes, despite the immediate pops that we got from Sam Laporta and Brock Bowers, I do think maybe some patience with Kincaid is warranted.
Andrew Erickson, are you somebody that believes the future is still bright regardless of what 2025 may or may not hold for Dalton Kincaid?
I think that it has to be brighter. It can't be worse than it
One
was
would
last
hope.
year.
One would hope. Does Dawson Knox make it dimmer? Like when Dawson Knox fades away eventually, is that an opportunity for Kincaid to shine, or no, because the usage is so different?
I think it's really just about Kincaid, the player, because even when he's been playing, to Fitz's point, I mean, he already won. So you really haven't seen that spark of, oh, this guy looks like he's going to be a dominant tight end at the NFL level. I think that hasn't happened yet. But because it is tight end and he's been banged up, okay, if he's healthy in year 3, maybe we get more of what we saw at the college level from Dalton Kincaid and why he was such a high draft pick. He was a first-round pick. And again, his rookie year, he was still pretty good. So I think that the future is brighter. And yeah, I think that he probably is an intriguing dynasty asset, especially with, people writing off these tight ends very quickly, even if they are young, because of the how we've been spoiled with some of these rookies.
Well, the jury has spoken. Dalton Kincaid will not be on their rosters in 2025. So unfortunately, this topic is now closed officially when it comes to Dalton Kincaid on Fantasy Football Draft Court. Our last debate today has to do with a rookie tight end. That's right. It's Colston Loveland of the Chicago Bears. And Colston Loveland, again, hasn't played a snap of football yet, but there's a lot of buzz. The training camp buzz. One of my favorite pastimes every single August. It rolls around, Pat Fitzmaurice, and everyone's in the best shape of their life, and everyone's got a great connection, and everybody looks sharp. He sure does look sharp this weekend. Boy, oh boy, I saw him at practice in shorts. Boy, oh boy, that fella's good at football. But can we take it for truth? That's what this courtroom cares about. It cares about truth. And we're going to have to get down to the bottom of things here with Colston Loveland. Now, we have no stats to talk about, but there was some draft capital used here. Ben Johnson, the new head coach, wants a new toy at tight end. Now, they already had Cole Kmet at tight end, but that wasn't enough, apparently, for Ben Johnson. Instead, they now draft Colston Loveland. And I am old enough to remember the last time a Ben Johnson offense got a young tight end. It was Sam Laporta, who had himself a pretty good season. A season so good that you would call it a league winner in many circles. So, Pat Fitzmaurice, as we begin this debate here on Colston Loveland, that is the big question. He is currently in the ECR at tight end 15, ADP tight end 13. Pat Fitzmaurice has him much later, though, at tight end 19, whereas Andrew Erickson is in line with the ADP. Andrew Erickson is looking at Colston Loveland, and Pat Fitzmaurice is looking past him. So, Pat, how can you look past a man who could potentially be with a head coach who made Sam Laporta a league winner just 2 years ago? Let's debate it. Fantasy Draft Court is in session. Pat Fitzmaurice, talk to me about Colston Loveland.
Well, I do like Colston Loveland as a prospect. He's tight end 5.
Objection. You do not like him. I have seen your ranking of him, and it is not good. It's 19. It's far lower than consensus. You may continue.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I like him as a dynasty prospect, where I have him tight end 5 in my ranking.
Sustained. Continue.
But I don't think people should be interested in Colston Loveland for redraft until next season. The too many mouths to feed narrative is not my favorite, even though I sort of used it with Dalton Kincaid just a moment ago. Talented players can lay that narrative to waste, and I do think Loveland is more talented than Kincaid. But, man, the Bears have a lot of talented pass catchers. DJ Moore has averaged 1,100 yards over the last 6 seasons. Rome Odunze was a top 10 NFL draft pick last year. Luther Burden is a very talented rookie, a second-round draft pick who might have been a top 10 pick had he been able to come out after a sensational sophomore season. Oh, and by the way, Andrew Erickson said earlier in the show that Ben Johnson likes to feed his slot receiver. So said I was going to file that one away. I'm going to use that now with the listing of all these pass catchers in the Bears offense. And we have all these high upside pass catchers in Chicago, but do the Bears have a quarterback who can make even 2 of these pass catchers fantasy relevant, make them every week fantasy starters? Like, there are a lot of players who've gotten good buzz since training camps opened. Caleb Williams is not one of those players. Not that we need to panic over the mistakes that quarterbacks make in training camp, but let's just say that Caleb Williams' performance for the Bears in camp thus far has not been very encouraging to anyone hoping for a second-year Caleb Williams breakout. So I do want to like Colston Loveland, but even if I squint real hard, I can't see a scenario where I would feel comfortable putting him into my starting tight end spot at any point in his rookie year.
There's one thing a Packer fan loves to do. It's throw shade at the Chicago Bears. Well done, Pat Fitzmaurice. Well done. It's like a national pastime up there. Andrew Erickson, Pat Fitzmaurice did, I think, slip up a little bit there, where he said, with all these other pass catchers around, was Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams and Reynolds and all these other pass catchers around when Sam Laporta went off? Now, I know it's not copy and paste because Jared Goff is certainly not Caleb Williams. However, with different mouths to feed, a tight end 8 in a Ben Johnson offense before. The problem is Caleb Williams capable of getting in the kitchen and making something that doesn't poison us?
Well, I hope so. I hope that he can make this guy a productive tight end, because I think that is part of the pushback against Loveland, is the fact that he has a quarterback that hasn't shown that he can support fantasy viable weapons. And the talk from training camp has basically been a lot of, this is kind of like Caleb Williams' rookie year, right? Where they're kind of resetting everything, his footwork, they're trying to fix everything, clean up the mistakes from last year because of how bad it was last season. So I still think there's an upside case where he's a second-year quarterback. He can make a leap. We expect the offense to be better. And why can't Colston Loveland be part of the reason why Caleb Williams is better? One of the things that Ben Johnson has echoed constantly is we want to get Caleb Williams, his completion percentage, up to 70%. How do you do that? You find a big short intermediate target like Colston Loveland, and you get him the ball and you feed him the rock. So, yeah, you talked about how Ben Johnson offenses feature the slot. Why can't Colston Loveland be the Brock Bowers in this offense? Brock Bowers was basically a glorified slot receiver last season. Why can't Loveland be in that type of role? So he actually is playing in that slot where Ben Johnson has featured some of his pieces. It would make sense to me that they would feature him inside, given the fact that they took him 10th overall. And kind of a shocking pick where many of us weren't projecting the Bears to be looking at a tight end in the NFL draft. We thought maybe receiver they go here, maybe they draft Ashton Genty, and then they kind of surprised us with Colston Loveland. I know that fits one of the things we were both on was Loveland as the first tight end off the board, which we benefited in the betting streak, which is a great hit. So thank you, Ben Johnson, for that. But I want to continue to ride this Colston Loveland train. I think that the gravy train still has more money to give here. And I think getting Loveland where he is, I think it's just worth the shot to kind of see what happens when week 1 rolls around. I know I also just saw it pop up. Cole Kmet left today with an injury. So is that something that could open up an opportunity for Colston Loveland to really take this tight end one job and run with it? So I just think that he's just too talented. We don't need to argue about his prospect profile because I know that you really like him too. And I just want to buy into that immediately because I think that he is talented enough where he can force the coach's hand to make sure that he's heavily involved from the get-go. And he's cheap enough where you can put him on the end of your bench if he's the 10th overall pick. I don't want to just ignore that.
Let's put it to the jury, see what they say. Are they or are they not drafting Colston Loveland this year in 2025? While the debate continues, Pat Fitzmaurice, rookie quarterbacks, good and bad, do tend to look for the tight end quite often. So do you think that he could be, as one of our listeners just put in the chat there, the security blanket regardless of any struggles that Caleb Williams could have? Could Loveland be the go-to guy regardless?
Yeah, it's possible, but if we're talking about him as a security blanket, that probably means a lot of less valuable targets near the line of scrimmage that maybe pad the reception total a little bit, but don't do great things for his yardage and touchdown totals. I mean, if we want to get Caleb Williams to a 70% completion percentage, I feel like Ben Johnson might have to dial up about 80 shovel passes this year to do it. I don't know if Caleb Williams has that in him. And by the way, Your Honor, the effort to derail my arguments here with the mention of Sam Laporta in his rookie year, Jameson Williams had 24 catches in Sam Laporta's
he was
overall
suspended
tight end one rookie season.
Yeah. Fair. Objection sustained. You're back. You're back, Pat Fitzmaurice. I will allow it. Let's continue to let the jury take some moments here to make their final decision. Before they do, keep the conversation going on our Discord. That's the place to go if you're looking to join a league, if you're looking to be part of our shows. We have shows on our Discord that we record where you get to ask us questions right there. It's like a call-in radio show kind of thing. It's super cool. And we're going to be doing that all season long, just like we've done the last couple of years. FantasyPros.com/chat. Join our Discord. That's the only way you can be on those shows, be part of the AMAs, be part of all of the channels. We're doing mock draft Mondays here with everybody. Crazy. They fill up in literally 8 seconds. I did a super flex mock on Monday last week. I think it was 8 seconds. It was full and we rolled. That's the place to be, man. Join our Discord. And remember, when you're watching this video, drop your comments below, subscribe to the channel, like this video here before the show is done, and you might win yourself the A.J. Brown helmet, autographed by A.J. Brown, Philadelphia Eagles superstar, and a guy that could not be replaced by Treylon Burks, apparently. But we've got the A.J. Brown helmet. That's the good one for you. Again, drop your comments, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and you could win it from pristineauction.com. We are awaiting, just seconds away. Question for you, Andrew Erickson. Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, 2 rookie tight ends. Who would you rather have in redraft this year?
So for me, it's Tyler Warren, and it goes down to he's never going to leave the field. I think that he could play 90% of the snaps, which is not what I would project for Loveland. And the other thing is, I don't think that we're going to get necessarily great quarterback play in either situation. I think that Caleb could probably have the better season if he hits his upside case rather than the Colts quarterback combination. But if they're both bad quarterback situations, then I want to take the guy that's better after the catch and can create more on his own, and that's Tyler Warren to me.
Well, the jury has come back with a verdict. We have it. It is 58%. The jury says that they are not, I repeat, not drafting Colston Loveland in 2025. Oh, Andrew Erickson, you're like Icarus. You flew so close to the sun. You were so good to start the show, coming out guns a-blazing. But youth and skill are no match for old age and treachery. And that's what Pat Fitzmaurice gave you here. I just called you Pat Morris, which is funny. Pat Fitzmaurice here. Apologies. The courtroom will put out an official apology for that. But I'm not going to apologize for drafting Colston Loveland late. Deeper leagues, I think you take a shot on him. But a lot of concerns there. Caleb Williams being the big one, new offense, rookie. There's a lot here with tight ends. You know, I think sometimes we get spoiled where we see like a Kyle Pitts come in and drop 1,000 yards, and every rookie tight end is going to come in and just be great. History is not always on the side, but it is good to see that it can happen. Sam Laporta, also recent memory, so perhaps it will be Tyler Warren, perhaps it will be Colston Loveland. Who knows? But again, that's what we're here for. So it was a great fantasy court today. I want to thank our incredible lawyers, Pat Fitzmaurice, Andrew Erickson, for being here today and making all their arguments. Hopefully we'll get some appetizers after the show. I also want to thank everybody for joining us here on the live stream. Nobody's better than our crew here at Fantasy Pros, our producers, and everyone behind the scenes too. Shout out to them for making this show work here today, and all of you, the jury. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your judgments here. And that'll do it for us here. But the story of the game goes on. For Pat Fitzmaurice and Andrew Erickson, this courtroom is officially adjourned for today. Get out of here. Go run some mock drafts. Download Draft Wizard. What are you doing here? Start putting all this knowledge to use, for God's sakes. Sync your leagues for free, by the way, too. It's a good thing to do. Don't be a tool. Use the tools. That's what I always say. Listen to Judge Joey. He's smart.